Hey y'all, I'm back and I'm ready to show you everything that I made while I was on vacation. So this is the bag that I took on my trip. In my last video, I broke down kind of everything that I took with me, with a few exceptions. I'll kind of take everything out so that you can see it. But before we do that, let's talk about the bag first. So this bag is a little bag from Amazon. I want to say it was maybe like $8 or something like that. It worked pretty good. The side pocket here was just big enough for my little mini palette and my little postcards that I made out of watercolor paper. So that was pretty handy. It was nice to have the quick access to a couple of my tools, the water brush or pencil. The pencil slide in a lot easier, but it does hold a water brush or any of these other drawing instruments. So that was good. I like these little flaps that it has that help keep on lids and keep anything from sliding out. So that's a good function. This does separate if you want to just take the main compartment or just the smaller thing, which came in handy for this trip. So a pretty good bag, and it does all kind of roll up and clip together here. And it does stay closed. I haven't had any problems with it coming open on accident or anything like that. So fairly happy with this bag. My only real complaint is that it can be hard to get some longer items out of the bag, like pencils and things like that. I'm sure it wouldn't be a problem if I've used these more and they were shorter, but I can't just reach in and grab everything I need. And if there's something down at the bottom, it can be a little bit difficult to get to. That is part of the reason why I bought that other bag that kind of slides down and everything sticks out of it, because it gave me a better way to see everything that I had. But that bag doesn't really work all that great with things like this that sit down at the bottom of the bag. So still really looking for the right bag for me, but this one worked. So I'll leave a link for it in the description below if anybody is this is the perfect bag for me, but I'm still searching. So let's talk a little bit about the materials that I used, anything that I took that wasn't in the original video, and we'll go just one by one. So things that I took that I didn't include in the video initially, a kneaded eraser. I did end up sticking my little pencil sharpener in here. I did take some washi tape. It was just a little small roll that I had. I thought that I would need that for the little stamp postcard things, but I ended up not using it. I just, avoided the edges basically. I did take some clips, which also I didn't end up using for anything in here, but I did end up using them in the hotel room to clip the curtains shut. So I guess they came in handy. And the last thing that I didn't include in the original video was this little water brush. This is also a Derwent water brush, but this is the one that came with my Inktense, or not Inktense, the Graphitint pan set. I ended up taking this one because I wanted one that fit in this little case. So this one actually fits in there perfectly, and I'll explain a little bit more about this later. But I swapped out one of the brushes for this one. I also ended up taking 2 of these Le Pens, just in case I needed to do any writing that was finer, because the brush pen and the Fude pen don't make really fine lines, or if they do, it's a little bit more difficult to do them. So I took these 2 pens. I didn't really use these that much, or really at all, I don't think, but that's probably because I really haven't made the notes and written out the little bits in my daily journal. So I may still use these because they match like the inks that I use in the daily journal. So let's move on to the actual supplies that I used. The pens, I used both of these, not as much as I would have liked, or at least the Sailor Fude pen, I didn't use it as much as I would have liked. I used that one for like some quick like urban sketching. I basically made this little like zine of all the like boats that I saw while I was, sitting by the beach and stuff. It's not perfect, but this did kind of scratch the itch of like, I didn't bring my big sketchbook, my like regular sketchbook, and I didn't have anywhere to draw like just like random stuff that I saw. So this was actually a great solution for that. And it really kind of takes the pressure off, like, everything being perfect in your sketchbook and all of that when you're just like drawing on some like craft paper. So that actually worked out really well. I'm glad I like folded up some craft paper and took it with me. I also started a little one while I was at the airport, of all the like specialized equipment at the airport, but I didn't really finish it. But I think it is a cute idea, and maybe I'll like finish it up some other time. Next up is the Derwent pencils. I did actually use these quite a bit, both in this little silly book that I made and also in my daily like visual journal. So those definitely winners as far as the materials that I took. This is just again like a little silly zine that I made of like people's really, really bad sunburns. So yeah, I'll probably turn this into like an actual zine and, fold it and make copies, make a proper zine. But yeah, it was really fun. And then the last one, pencil, I used throughout the, everything. So never leave home without a pencil. And then this is the little palette that I got from Olinda's Artistic Oddities. So I was worried that I wouldn't have time to use these. It was hard to really like find time to like sit and paint. But what I ended up doing, which, not unlike my regular real life, is waking up early before everybody else and going and painting. And then, coming back as everybody was kind of waking up. And that actually worked out great. And this little kit was amazing. I was kind of conservative with it, mainly because I wasn't sure how quickly I was going to go through the paint. But I'll open it up so you can see, like, I barely used, not any of it because I did quite a few little drawings, but barely made a dent in the actual paint. So yeah, it worked great. I will say that the gouache definitely gave me a little bit of trouble with the drying and the cracking. Some colors more than others. Pretty much all of them were okay except for the brown and the red. Those are the ones that gave me the most trouble, and they ended up getting into my like Naples yellow and like sticking to it. So there are like little flecks of other colors in there. But I use that Naples yellow as a mixing color anyways, so it's not really that big of a deal. But otherwise, worked great. No fault to the palette itself. I will say that some of the times there were a couple that shifted a little bit. Didn't really cause a problem, but if I didn't open it carefully, I guess they could potentially like fall out, and depending on where you're at, that could be a problem, I guess. So I may like take a little double-sided tape or something, and stick them down just to be safe. But otherwise, like I said, worked great. The little mixing area was perfect. The little sponge, helped me like dry off my paintbrush, though I did have like a napkin or something, to kind of do that anyways. And all the colors pretty much stayed clean. Other than me, just dipping my brush into, other colors and stuff like that. But like the little bit of green that's on the yellow, that can easily be like lifted and wiped off. So yeah, didn't have a problem really with, colors mixing unintentionally. So yeah, I did get to use this. I used it with this little case. I wanted to take this because this is like a little waterproof case, and this actually fits perfectly in there with the water brush and the little postcards that are these here. I still have some left over, but yeah, these fit perfectly in there along with a little folded up napkin, and it just made like the perfect kit for like a beach or something like that where, there may be some like water, getting things wet like in your bag and stuff like that. And, if you don't want to like ruin your paper and stuff. And also, I'll just open this really quick. This little hinge here is actually pretty like stiff. So I was able to put my postcard, my little stamp postcard in here, and then the palette in here, and just like have everything kind of, it's like a little easel kind of, I guess. So it actually, like I said, it worked out really well. I'm glad that I brought this because there were some situations that, my son was splashing, and getting my bag wet, or I set it down on something wet. That just kept everything nice and safe. And then the viewfinder. Talk about this. So I did actually use this, and the not only was the like viewfinder part of it very handy, but also the value finder thing was very handy. I wasn't sure if it was going to be like super kind of gimmicky or, impractical, but it actually ended up being very useful in like really kind of separating the like big shapes and like deciding which items were like going to be heavier on the composition and things like that. So yeah, I do recommend this. I mentioned in my last video that if you'd like to make this modification, I have a huge sheet of acetate, and I'd be happy to send you some. So yeah, I did end up using this. I do like it, and composition wise, I don't know how well I did, but at least it was like something that I was thinking about and, making like some conscious decisions. And this did help me kind of line up and figure out the proportions and stuff. So would take that again. Let's take a look at the little paintings that I made with my gouache kit. So little tiny, very tiny little beach scene. And most of these I did pretty quickly, so don't expect a lot of like detail or, perfection in them, but, I still think it turned out pretty cute. Some little flowers that were on a little nature trail that we walked down. A little, this was a little sunrise scene with a storm. It was like a big storm cloud, but the sun was kind of peeking through it. This was a little scene from the nature walk. I ended up going down it on my own for a little while and just stopped to draw these like trees with the roots that were going over rocks and stuff. I feel like I bit off a little bit more than I could chew on this one, but I still like how it came out, and it was really fun to try to kind of figure out and draw. And then one more little morning scene. This one was pretty kind of just a pretty morning. So yeah, so that's all the little postcards that I made while I was there. I do still have some left over, so I think I'll probably, make some more little paintings from, reference photos or photos that I took just to kind of round out the collection a little bit. So let's look at the drawings that I made on vacation in the visual journal. So this was still July. I was using, for the month of July, I used basically just the Derwent pencils by themselves. Sometimes wetting them, sometimes not, depending on what kind of like feeling I was going for. This was the day that we left for Mexico. Our flight got super delayed, like super delayed. We basically lost an entire day at the airport. Yeah, do not recommend Spirit. Just like whatever money you think you're saving with Spirit, you will pay for it in some other way. So yeah, do not recommend Spirit. Don't use them. Like I've flown with Spirit twice, and both times have been a nightmare. Like I'll just tell you because I just want to make sure other people are not making this mistake. The first time that we flew with them, they canceled our flight, and they wouldn't put us on another flight until 2 days later. We ended up having to go with a different airline and ended up at a different airport in Houston and had to go from one airport to the other, which is like 45 minutes. They lost our car seat. Like, yeah. And then this time, like I said, it got delayed. First for just like a couple hours, and then they kept pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back until it was like 6 or 7 hours behind the time that we were supposed to get there. And even when we got on the plane, still like sitting on the tarmac forever. So yeah, not a great time. By the time we actually landed in Mexico, I was like, somebody get me a margarita or a mojito, like immediately. And I'm not even a big drinker. So the place that we stayed at had this really cool, like covered parking area or covered driveway. And I don't know if you can see like the scale here, but like that's the car and that's the like hut. Like, I think it's called like a palapa or something like that. But yeah, that thing was crazy huge. So after a good night's sleep, I think everybody was in a lot better mood, and we actually got to like see the hotel and hang out and stuff. So we did a lot of like beach time, a lot of swimming. We checked out the ruins. When we went to put the baby down for a nap, we ended up having basically like an animal parade come through. It was like all the animals that just like live on the hotel property. So it was like I'm not sure what they were. I've heard capybara many times, but these were very small compared to capybaras that I've seen. So I don't think they were actually capybara. Whatever they were very cute. They look like miniature capybara. So we'd have like a whole herd of them come through and do all the silly things that they do. And then we had some coatimundi, which is like kind of like a raccoon. And they were like loud. They're going through the trees and making a lot of ruckus. And coming up to our like balcony and stuff like that. They were also adorable. And then the really loud ones were these monkeys that were just like swinging through the trees. I don't know what kind of monkeys they are because I never got like a really good look until much later. I need to go and like seek it, but they were freaking cute. And then also on the property were like these beautiful flamingos, a ton of like iguanas, and I'm sure there's something that I'm missing. I also ended up waking up really early and doing a little bit of the plein air painting. That's one of the pictures that I showed you. So yeah, really good first day. The next day we went as an entire family to a little place called Xcaret, which is this like huge, I don't know, eco theme park where they've got like a river that you can swim through that takes you through some like different ecosystems, I guess, caves, jungle, mangroves, and you're just basically like swimming through them. And then they also have like sea turtles and some like animals that you can like observe. You can swim with dolphins. They have all kinds of stuff there. We didn't do most of that stuff because we've got a toddler and it's a little bit difficult to like wait in lines and things like that. But we did do a lot of swimming, a lot of snorkeling. My mom ended up getting him a little snorkel that covered his whole face, and let me tell you, when he put that thing on, he went wild. he went wild. He was like on hyper mode because he was so excited to see all the like fish and stuff under the water. We also saw some really cool birds. We saw these at our hotel as well, actually, because the hotel was right by Xcaret. So it was very cool. And this little baby tapir was so adorable. Everything was really cool. I do like how the brown pit pen looks with all of this. You know, it kind of gives it a little bit of a softer look. And I think that it really went well with like the colors of the like rocks and jungle and things like that. So this was a pretty short trip. So this was our last like full day at the hotel. We woke up and basically had like spaghetti legs. So we were just super tired from all the swimming and walking and everything. After a while, I ended up getting out of bed to do a little bit more snorkeling. And then we, just kind of hung out at the pools, ate lunch together and just kind of spent time together as a family. We ended up taking a couple cute pictures by the beach. And then we had to basically get everything packed for an early flight the next day. The flight out was relatively uneventful. I will say that they did lose our stroller, which again, don't use Spirit. Just don't use them. The Border Patrol to get back into the US was a nightmare, especially considering that we didn't have our stroller. So we had to carry the baby or, hold him in a line that took probably at least an hour and a half, which is basically an eternity with a toddler. Luckily, he was pretty chill and we managed. Getting home was, a little bit of a nightmare as well because we had to stop and figure out what happened to our stroller and go to baggage claim to see if we could find it there. Long story short, it's still in Cancun. They're going to have to mail it to us or something. We ended up, we headed home and we had our little Charlie dog waiting for us. She was so happy to see us that she had a whole full body waggle basically. Her little butt was shaking, her tail was wagging. She was so excited to see us, and we were so excited to see her. So it was nice to come home to that, and that was the end of our vacation. So, yeah. Really enjoyed using the Derwent pencils with the ink, with the Pitt pen. It did dry pretty much instantly. I had zero bleed on any of these. And I like the kind of like softness of it. I feel like it's very cohesive, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's everything that I drew while I was there. I did end up starting another little zine, but didn't get very far in it, so I will show you guys that one later. Also, it is in terrible shape because it was while I was at the first airport, so a lot of moving around and chasing my toddler. One thing that I totally forgot to mention that I brought with me was this thing. This is like a little bendy cable tie. So recently I had made a video about texture foraging, and I was wearing this like really ridiculous contraption that is for like, I think technically it's for like laying in bed and watching your phone hands-free. Feels very like future, like Wall-E. But I picked it up at Goodwill for like $2, thinking that maybe I could use it for like POV filming. And I put it on and I was like, there's no way I'm wearing this in public. It worked great for the video, kind of great, not that great, but it worked for the video, but I was like, one, can't wear this in public. There's no way. And two, it's like huge. So I had this idea to basically make the same thing out of this. And it actually worked pretty good, and it was way less noticeable than that other thing. Let me grab my work phone so that I can show you how I did it. Obviously, I can't show you with my regular phone because I am using it to film. But basically, I just made this a little bigger, put this around my neck, and then the ends, I bent them, the ends I bent up, and I'm doing this pretty crudely, but, and then I just stuck my phone in here like this, and it just, and I know this looks like it probably would never work, but it totally worked. You can press it a little bit if you need to. And yeah, it's, I mean, I'm like holding the neck part right now and it's just hanging, but yeah, you can like adjust the angle and the height and everything. And it also comes in handy if you like want to hang your phone somewhere or like use it as like a tripod. I used it as a tripod for a time lapse. So honestly, kind of a hack. And yeah, this barely weighs anything and takes up 0 space. So I know it's probably really silly, but would definitely bring this again. And lastly, I think I just want to mention the things that I wish I had brought with me. One, my sketchbook, for sure. I definitely missed my sketchbook, my like just regular size sketchbook. And two, I missed my Neo colors. I still wouldn't have brought them on this trip. It was like so hot, so incredibly hot and humid that I feel like they would have been just a puddle of color. I'll have to find some sort of solution for that later. Somebody suggested Neocolor ones. So yeah, maybe I'll try that next time. But I just thought I would mention those things. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you have not subscribed and liked what you've seen here, consider subscribing. And I will catch you guys on the next video.